Hi, my name is Joyce Bassett, a longtime Bruce Springsteen fan. My first show was the 1978 Bruce Springsteen show at RPI Fieldhouse in 1978. And you're listening to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City.
Hello, and welcome back to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, where we explore the history and people of Troy, New York, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, John Salka. This is Chapter 10, Episode 15. On November 12th, 1978, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band landed in the Collar City. It was their latest stop on their Darkness on the Edge of Town tour, which crisscrossed the United States and Canada between May 1978 and January of 1979. In the audience that night was 16-year-old Joyce Bassett, who saw Bruce in concert for the very first time at RPI's Houston Fieldhouse in Troy, New York, just a mile away from her house in the Freer Park neighborhood. It started with seats in the bleachers, but by night's end, Joyce was on her friend Patty's shoulders in front of the stage, reaching out to the boss. On the walk home, she knew it was a moment she'd remember for the rest of her life. Today, Joyce is a writer and award-winning sports columnist for the Times-Union, specializing in women and girls in sports and golf. She's also written extensively about her life's journey with Bruce Springsteen for the Times-Union and on her blog, Bruce Springsteen, A New York Serenade, which we also reference throughout our chat. We are thrilled that Joyce agreed to be part of the pod, her willingness to revisit the special night of music at the RPI Houston Fieldhouse 46 years ago this month, and how it started her lifelong love of the boss. Throughout the episode, you'll also hear recordings from that night, courtesy of a bootleg recording called Prove It All Night, live in Troy, courtesy of Gems, that's Jems, a legendary tapers collective that began in the early 1970s. They're responsible for this show and countless other bootleg recordings that have circulated over the years. The full 1978 Springsteen concert in Troy, New York is available at archive.org. I've linked to it in the show notes. All right, let's jump right into our chat with Joyce Bassett. Joyce, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, kind of give us a snapshot of where you were at the time in 1978. You were 16 or so. What was happening in Troy? What was going on in your life?
So, basically, I grew up near Freer Park, which is a great place to grow up. We had a nice arena there and just, a place to go out and hang out. And then we also, my friends and I would walk over to Beeman Park near RPI. And we just heard that Springsteen was performing at RPI. And I had an interest, we all had an interest in music. But a friend of ours went to see Bruce when he was at the Palace and said it was crazy good. So we all, figured we would splurge, pay $8 and walked up to the box office and got tickets. But basically Troy was a great place to grow up. We walked everywhere and proud to say that I walked the mile to my first Springsteen concert. Went with 4 other girlfriends and none of them became as hooked as I did, but we all had a great time.
So tickets were only $8 in 1978, huh?
Yes. I know I sound ancient. Yeah, 46 years ago, it was $8 to get in.
That's a good point. So this November, we're recording this in October of 2024. So November of 2024 will be the 46th anniversary of the concert. How much of that concert still sort of resonates with you after all these years? I mean, you're obviously a super fan. I think in every respect of the world, a Bruce super fan, just based on some of your posts and some of your blog posts and writings that's on your blog, which we'll get into later. But What do you remember about that day, and how vivid is that still for you, those memories?
I remember it very well. We only knew pretty much a little bit of Born to Run and then Darkness. We listened to before the show. But then when I left, I said to myself, I'm going to know every song in his catalog. It was just one of those where when they had, I remember Spirits in the Night is a big concert song, and everybody throwing back, singing with him and thinking, I don't know what they're saying right now. And then I caught on and thought, I'm never going to be left out. The Times Union, we had a lot of fans during the reunion tour in the office. And so things just kept rolling in terms of them letting me chronicle a lot of the history of Bruce in the Capital Region.
To take a step back to that era in time in Springsteen's career and this period when you discovered your love for his music, what was sort of happening at that point in his career?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I didn't know at the time, but I knew that he was fighting to get um, like a new record out. He had Darkness, and that had been out. So this was the Darkness tour, but a lot of the songs that he sung at the RPI show, not a lot, but three or four of them were for a new album. And it sounds like he was, looking back, that was a time when he was trying to break away from his manager. He signed a contract, and similar to Taylor Swift, he was trying to break away, realized, he didn't think through the contract, and so that was a tough period in his life. But we didn't know that at the time. We just knew that the person we saw on stage looked like he was having the time of his life. I mean, and I remember thinking about, like, he was almost like an athlete because he just never stopped. He just kept going and going and going and put everything into it. And it was just, I remember when he took the break, he would play like half a show, take a 20-minute break, and then do another half. And we all looked at ourselves and go, that was half. It was really amazing.
We're gonna take a 20-minute break and we'll be back to do another set for you, okay? So we'll see you in about 20 minutes, all right?
Oh, so the concert itself was split into two sets.
Right. Right. That's how we did it back then.
Wow, that's great. First time listener to the show? It's okay, we won't tell. Don't forget to check out past episodes of Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and everywhere podcasts are available. You can also explore our full archive at troystorypod.com. Day of the concert, you and your girlfriends are walking over to the field house from Freer Park?
Right.
What was that experience like? I mean, so this is before you became a fan, but what do you remember about sort of arriving at the field house? What was the atmosphere? What was the crowd like?
I remember distinctly looking down, they had ripped the tickets, and after like taking two steps in the door, realizing they gave me the wrong half of the ticket. And I have kind of a funny story about that too, where so the tickets, there was like a main portion, and then there was a part that they were supposed to rip off and keep for themselves. Well, I looked down and they just gave me the stub that didn't have his name on it or anything like that. And I still kept it. And then years later, I borrowed a friend's, not a person that I went with, but actually a friend of my husband who still had his ticket from that show, and they match up perfectly. It's the oddest thing. You wouldn't believe it if you saw it. And so I I've used that over the years to, and I've seen it. It has spread around the internet because it's like a complete ticket from that Troy show. But so I remember that very distinctly. I remember going. We were in the back, so we were in like a bleacher section, and then there was the hockey rink. So we were like on one end of the hockey rink, and Bruce was on the other end of the hockey rink. And by I think I can't remember exactly, but midway through the show, I think probably at the break, we said, "Well, we're not going to stay back here." So we made ourselves at home, right up on, they call the hockey rink the boards. So we were stage right along the boards, and then we eventually were right in front of the stage.
Oh, that's amazing. So you migrated down. That wasn't assigned seats, essentially, is what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah, we were in the assigned seats in the bleachers, but then we worked our way up. And I'm pretty small. I'm like 5'1" now. So back then I was it's probably around the same size actually. So it's pretty easy. It's always been easy for me to work my way to the front of the stage if I need to.
Was there an opening act that night?
No, no, I don't believe so. No. I don't think he really had opening acts. Although, I seem to remember like some early shows. Oh, I know what it was. It was the Union show. The Union show in 1974. There was like an opening act, but not at this show.
So Bruce hits the stage. What was that first sort of experience like? You're sitting in the back of the arena, and then obviously halfway through you're sort of up in front. Do you have any specific memories of the show itself, of the music, of the performance?
I remember we were just blown away. It was just like he has always done where he starts out on fire, like his first 4 or 5 songs.
That's a knock in. You're gonna get with it, baby. Everybody's at the high school, Bobby. Put on your rocking shoes. Let the jukebox blow fuse. Everybody's rocking. Everybody's stopping.
And then he'll do a slow song like Darkness. And then he did one called Independence Day, which eventually came out on the river. And that one, he said, this is gonna come out on my new album.
It's a song I originally wrote for the darkness on the edge of town. It should be on the next record. We're gonna try and get out by the summertime, around the summertime. So this is a song called Independence Day.
And then he blasts into like Promised Land. And Prove It All Night, which was a big hit. And then Thunder Road. Jungle Land. I mean, it just like, it was crazy. And then he takes the break and says, "We're coming back for another set." And that's, I mean, it was just like the typical up and down. You'd go from a slow song to a really rocking one. But after that batch, he did. I remember Candy's Room very well because we all liked that. I remember sitting in my friend's bedroom listening to that one over and over. We really liked that one.
She says, baby, if you wanna be wild, you gotta like to love. Close your eyes, let them go, let them fall. Let burn, 'cause in the darkness, there'll be words that shine.
And then, Point Blank, which was another song we didn't know because it was coming out on the river.
You wake up and you're dying. You don't even know what's wrong. Well, they shot you point blank. They shot you in the back. Baby, point blank. You've been fooled this time. Little girl, that's the fact. Point blank. Right between the eyes.
But then he just like, finishes with the Backstreets.
Get wasted here.
Rosalita.
Wherever you are, whatever you do, come on, Rosie, come back to me.
Fourth of July, Asbury Park. Born to Run, and then the Detroit medley. So it was exhausting. I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be so late getting home because it started at 8 and probably a little after. And I mean, we were all in high school and we had school the next day. So I remember being exhausted, and I was a track runner, so I was in good shape, but oh man, he wore us out.
That's amazing. That must have been so wild. Especially, it's very interesting. It's having the two sets. It's very much like a bar band in the way that a bar band would play like 3.5, 4 hours. They break the setup in half because the band always has to take a break. So it's kind of interesting that he was doing an arena an arena concert, an arena tour, and breaking it into two sets.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's like. It does feel really intimate after it gets going because you know, you do have that atmosphere where like this guy is putting it all out there and the band is just as entertaining. I mean, Clarence, that whole thing was all going on and it was pretty rocking. And I do remember though being exhausted. That was the big feeling at the end. We were like, oh my God, now we have to walk home and get to school the next morning.
Where were you going to school at the time?
Some of us went to Troy High School, which would have been just down the street from the field house. And then I went to Catholic Central, which is in Lansingburg.
Like what you're hearing? Share the love and leave a review. According to the internet, we're told reviews are the most effective way to help suggest our podcast to other listeners. Oh, and please share this episode with your friends, family, or that special person in your life. They'll thank you for it, and we will be forever in your debt. Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City. Catch new episodes each month on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and everywhere pods are cast. So, on your blog, I think you had posted something about actually touching his shoe. Is that still something that jumps out at you when you think about it?
Yeah. Patty, my friend, lifted me up and, I mean, he would come close and I remember just like grabbing on for a little bit and then letting him go, of course. He did dive into the crowd at one point. That was a little away from us, unfortunately, but probably fortunately for him, since I probably wasn't strong enough to hold him up like the rest of them. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It's one that you want to aspire to do again, and I have made it to the front row several other, pretty close, and then front row probably twice when he became super popular after that.
You mentioned the band. So at the time, Bruce, the E Street Band, this was Clarence Clemens, this was Danny Federici, this was Gary Talent, Steve Van Zandt, Max Weinberg, and is it Roy Bittan, right? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is considered sort of like at the time maybe the first classic lineup. I forgive me because I don't consider myself a Bruce Springsteen super fan, but this is, I think, considered to be the sort of like classic lineup that recorded a lot of those early albums.
Yes, absolutely. I know Roy and Max both came in after they had some other musicians, but yeah, that was the main core group that when Bruce started with another band in the middle of his career, that was the group everyone aspired to get back together.
So you published a series of stories for your blog, we mentioned this earlier, called Bruce Springsteen, A New York Serenade. And this sort of chronicles your years following Springsteen and the E Street Band, at different concerts that he's performed in the Capital Region, and just sort of your fandom and I guess fandom of friends and fellow fans. How did that sort of get started? I know you touched on it briefly, but when did you decide to make that decision to sort of start publishing these memories online? Because there's a lot of posts on that website.
Yeah. It was, I had a basement full of memorabilia. And one of the things I wanted to do was just start weeding through the items that I had down there and post them to Instagram. And this was all around the reunion tour where we were just so excited that the band got back together, and a bunch of us were really into it, and I thought, this is a good project if I just start putting things in writing, and then I can post some of the memorabilia that I have and just get it out there for other people to enjoy. I didn't want to get rid of it, but I wanted other people to enjoy it.
And there's a lot. I actually have it up in front of me right now, and I will link to the blog in the episode notes. So if anyone's listening right now, you can click on the episode notes and view some of these posts. You've got some great photos and some great stories. I mean, you've literally got your, My Springsteen story post, or Springsteen's got a soft spot for Albany, and you've got all these different posts from all the different shows over the years that you've been to. But the Springsteen story post about the 1978 concert is what you characterize as a 16-year-old, you became obsessed, and you said it's sort of a significant event in your life. It seems to always tie back to Springsteen moments. So I think it's really special that you sort of have this blog and you've been able to share with other fans your memories. I'm just even reading some of the comments on here. I could, someone saying, "Hey, I just rereading your writings of Bruce. I can see every minute of the RPI concert." And another one said, "I only went to one show, and it was this one at RPI. I have some incredible photos." So it must be pretty cool to be able to share some of those stories and memories with other people and hear back from them.
Yeah, it was funny because when I first started to do this, I would look at in WordPress, you could see where the subscribers were coming from, and it was all over the world, which I'm guessing that stemmed from like posts that I had on Twitter at the time. And then, it was just amazing to see how people would connect with it. And not a lot of people would go back and forth with me, but at one concert, we met someone who came from Scotland, and it was. That's one of my favorite stories in there, where I had an extra seat to the Broadway show, and I found a guy on a back street, which was the premier Springsteen fan website, and he and his friends were so happy, and they traveled all the way from Europe to try to get to the show, and were ticketless for like the first 2 or 3 days that they were here. He couldn't believe that I sold it at face value to him, first of all. That's like one of my favorite stories in the blog, just when I wrote about him. I think I wrote it for the paper as well.
Man, you must have made their week or their month, maybe, or even their year.
Yeah. Yeah, his buddy got one and he got one the same day. It was great.
I wanted to very quickly read some excerpts from the RPI student newspaper, The Polytechnic. The article's entitled "Bruce Springsteen, the Magic of Rock and Roll Music," written by Michael Dubois. With little doubt left in the minds of those in attendance, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band once again proved, as they do every night, that they are the best live band in the world. It is rare that a band can provide such an uplift, but it is nice to be able to say once again, you can believe in the magic of rock and roll. I've posted a full copy on TroyStoryPod.com. How many times have you seen Bruce over the years?
So I just reached 40.
Oh my
It
gosh.
was, I've met so many people who have gone so many more times, but it's, I never could afford to go to multiple shows on a tour. So I would just wait and go when he came to town, basically. And then you meet these people who've seen him hundreds and hundreds of times and followed him all over the place. But it wasn't until like the reunion tour, when I would go to a stadium show after the Albany show, and we would maybe go see it. Once we went up to Montreal, we went to Pittsburgh, and then we started to go through the opening nights of the tours. We went to Pittsburgh. We went to Tampa the opening night of this current tour that's been going on for several years now. But I haven't been back. I'm kind of waiting. I missed the Albany shows. I wasn't around, and I had tickets to Syracuse, and then that got canceled. So it hasn't quite come together for this tour, but it'll come. And then I did meet him once. I met him at the Harvard bookstore when he had his book tour. My daughter got me that ticket. That was pretty cool.
What was that experience like?
That was really cool. I live streamed it on Facebook, and it was kind of like the early times of people doing that.
Sure.
And it was very well watched. And you kind of wind through the bookstore. I think I was like 800th in line.
Oh my God.
And you get there, and I told him, well, it was near his birthday, so I brought him a birthday present, and then it was actually right after his birthday. I remember the date. It was 10/10, so it was like it's easy to remember. So it was Columbus Day weekend, and I met a ton of people in line, had a blast, and then again I wrote a story about it, about meeting your heroes. And people say don't meet your heroes, but that was worth it. I mean, it was a real quick, like, thank you very much for everything you do. I'm a reporter. I've followed you, since 1978 in Troy. And he, just looks you in the eye, and then he turns you towards the camera. So you only have that few seconds, but it was pretty cool.
As a writer, obviously putting words to paper, language is part of your craft and your career. What drew you to Bruce? Was it his lyrics? Was it the way that he writes his songs, the way that he performs and delivers? What was the thing that really hooked you?
I think it was a combination of the live show, the energy, the athleticism, and the lyrics. I really, felt that when back then you had the albums with the lyrics inside, and
Mm-hmm.
I just poured over every single lyric. I got all the old albums after the show and just memorized every single song. And, and then, got into the bootlegs and the songs that were left off the album. So I got pretty into that and the history, and I've read most of the I've read his book and a lot of books about him. So I would say it's a combination of both his writing, extraordinary, and the energy of the show.
So where does the Troy show rank in all of the shows that you've seen since 78? I know that's a tall order if you've seen 40 shows, but where does that rank in sort of your personal favorite?
I would say it's definitely top five. Probably second or third.
Oh, wow.
When you know all the songs, I think it's better. So as you can really tell, oh, this is like a special song. I went to there was a series of shows at MetLife, and we were in the pit. And we did MetLife 2, and that is my favorite show. That was incredible. He did I don't know if you're familiar with it, where he goes from Incident to Rosalita on the album, and it was tremendous. It was in Jersey, and he treated it like it was like one of the last shows he's ever going to do. Of course, that didn't come to be the case, but that is my favorite concert.
That's amazing. And I understand it's a loaded question because it's so tough when you have a favorite band and you've seen them X number of times, and 40 is a lot. I think of my favorite band is Metallica, and I saw them actually in Jersey as well at Giant Stadium, and yeah, I think I was 17. Yeah, 17. I hadn't quite turned 18 yet. I was right after I graduated high school, and it was at Giant Stadium, and there's actually a video recording of it, and I didn't know about it for years and years and years, and I only discovered it within the last year that was up on YouTube.
Oh, neat.
After me, give me an M. I said, give me an M. Give me an E. Give me a T. Give me 0, give me 5, give me double tennis.
And I bring this up because you had mentioned the bootlegs, and there's a lot of recordings of his shows, and there is a high quality bootleg recording of the 78 RPI show available online. And we talked about this over email when we were trying to set this interview up. I'm sure you've listened to it. Is it really special to have a document of your first Springsteen show? Not only your first show, but a show in your hometown. And two, when you listen to it, did it give you any new memories that may have been sort of buried many years on, to go back and hear it and say, oh, you know what? I remember this song doing this specific thing, and, you know, any particular moment from the show?
Yeah, I think it is special. I wouldn't say, I think like when I wrote that it was good quality was back before bootlegs really became really good quality. So to me, it was good. I think if I went back and listened now, I'd be like, oh, this is not good quality. But in the middle of Backstreets, he did the like kind of a version of a song that he would put on the River album called Drive All Night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my favorite songs.
Baby, we go right back. Love how we go right back. Yeah, we go
My husband and I, our first date was Springsteen on the River tour out in Buffalo. And so we've been together for 44 years now since that show. People say, what's your favorite Springsteen song? And it always changes for some reason, but for a while there, Racing in the Street I really loved. And right, he says on the bootleg, he says this is for Joyce, and I was like, wait, what?
This for all the night riders out there. And this for Joyce.
And I researched it, and he had a girlfriend who was an actress. Her name was Joyce Heiser. And there's not many Joyces in the world, so I thought that was pretty amazing. But that's the type of thing when you really dig into this stuff, it's like, this is crazy coincidence. But yes, one of my favorite songs, he said, this is for Joyce at the RPI concert. So yeah, I would say, yeah, it's pretty special to have that. I think I have most of the shows I've seen on bootleg, I've been able to track down.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, obviously, you know, you're saying everybody's favorite song changes over time, like you just said. Do you have sort of like a top 3 favorite Springsteen album list?
Oh, that changes too. Yeah. I loved Tracks, and I still do really like Tracks, which was a bunch of his songs that didn't make albums. And it's incredible. It's so good. I still like to listen to that today. So as far as ranking, I would say The River is very much up there. And you know, it's kind of, to me, it's like before the new band and after the new band. So so there's like the reunion, there's like like he had a band when my daughter was born on the day 2 albums were released too. It's like I have all these crazy coincidences. But that was when he had a different band. And it's when Lucky Town and Human Touch came out. But then after the reunion, there were a lot of albums that I would put in there. But I don't know, The Rising after 9/11. I remember listening to that on the way to work and just crying the entire time at the songs that he was able to put out right after 9/11. So I think that ranks right up there too.
I hear that a lot. One of my really good friends is a Springsteen fan, a fan's fan. I think he's seen Springsteen 60 times.
Wow.
60
Yeah.
plus. I think he just went and saw him again recently. And he last year, I think no, maybe it was this year. He flew to Ireland for vacation, and I guess he worked it around a Springsteen show so he could see Bruce in Dublin. Yeah, he actually posted this great selfie. He was on the front rail, and Bruce had come down off the stage and was walking past, and he snapped this photo. And it's so funny because both Mike, my friend Mike, and Bruce are looking dead into the camera, like, and
that's awesome.
He's actually several people away. He's not even like terribly close to him, but it's just this weird moment he got, and he posted it. I was like, that's an amazing like mantle photo for a Bruce fan. So pretty funny.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Back to the bootleg real quick, and I actually just went to pull it up because there's a couple different recordings of it from over the years. There's an audience tape released called Live in Troy, which per the web, some of these wiki pages says the recording runs fast. I guess there is a more cleaned up version that someone had went back through and slowed it down a bit to like normal tempo, and I'll link to it in the show notes as well. But and there is actually a recording of the sound check too, but it's pretty low quality. It's on YouTube. It looks like Badlands, High School Confidential, Hang Up My Rock and Roll Shoes, Darkness on the Edge of Town, an instrumental version of Point Blank. Then there's the Apache, which is another instrumental song, and The Promised Land. But I've listened to it. It's pretty poor quality, so I don't know what the original source was. Did you go to many other concerts at the Fieldhouse over the years? Was the Springsteen show the first show you ever saw at the Fieldhouse?
Yes. I remember we went and we were let in to see the Grateful Dead, probably right around that same period. I remember we were just hanging around, and we could hear the music outside. We didn't have tickets. It was sold out. And then at one point, the guy just let us all in the back door. So so that kind of counts as seeing the Dead. But
yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that sort of jumps out at you from the show from that era. If there's any other memories, or if there's any other people you think that might be good to speak with. I actually tried to connect with Marty Benjamin, who is a photographer. He took photos at the show that night, but he has not responded to emails or phone calls.
I talked to him a while back and got permission to use his photography in the Times-Union, and he's quite the concert photographer. And you've seen his website, obviously, with all his photographs that he's taken through the years.
Oh yeah, big time.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And he's from the Capital Region. I think he's still a teacher at U Albany. It's just a matter of tracking him down.
I've sent him a few emails, and I left him a voicemail or two, but I know how people are. They're busy.
Yeah, he's fun to talk to. I remember him, I think he also did the Born in the USA at Saratoga Springs, that there was a lot of rain and stuff, and I remember he had a lot to say about that, but I can't specifically remember his tales. But I don't know that I I remember he might have he did the Palace shows. But he if there was a band that was performing, he was always there. What a rock photographer, just um amazing guy.
Yeah, he there's actually a book called The Light in the Darkness, and it's a limited edition book of photos from Darkness on the Edge of Town tour and the subsequent album. And there's a bunch of different photos, including several from the RPI Fieldhouse in '78. And he
Neat.
just talks about ending up shooting some of these shows and how he got in. And there's a whole section specifically about the RPI show November 12th, and he just apparently grabbed his camera and drove over and snuck it in under his jacket and just kept shooting. And he said he shot the whole show. He put a bunch of the photos are on his website. I'll send it to you if you're interested in looking at it. It's just
That's awesome. It's been a while, but yeah.
Do you happen to have any photos yourself of that night, or photos from that era you'd be willing to share?
You know what? I don't have a photo. I actually did a painting that was from a photo of that show, and I'm in the middle of moving. Everything's in storage, so I don't think I'd be able to get at it. If you wanted to do the screenshot from my website, you're welcome to do any of those.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that would be great. That was my final question. If I could pull anything, if there was anything off the website I could use, that would be really.
Well, the ticket is the cool one.
Yeah, I know.
Very cool. Yeah, feel free to use that. It's
Absolutely.
One of those old Ticketron tickets, and it should be a decent size for you to use. I mean, it's when I prepared for this, I printed it out, and it looks really good. Someday I'll get the other half from. It's actually my husband's roommate in college who has the other half. So it's and he's our accountant, so he knows I want it.
It's for the right price.
That's right. He's not willing to give it up quite yet.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, other than the 4 girls that I went to the show with, we still hang out to this day. In fact, they're going to my daughter's wedding this upcoming Saturday. So we were not only concert buddies, but we're lifelong friends.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool.
They lived in Troy their entire life. I escaped for a while, lived in various places, but yeah, they're and they probably went to a lot more shows at RPI Fieldhouse than I ever went to.
Thank you, Joyce. I really appreciate you doing this.
All right. Well, thank you. And yeah, I'll look forward to it, and then I'll put it on my socials as well.
Cool.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming down to the show. Thank you very much. So we appreciate it. Open that guitar, everybody. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much to Joyce for agreeing to be on our podcast. It was an absolute privilege to have her help us revisit this iconic concert at the Houston Fieldhouse in Troy, New York. She really helped bring us right back to that evening with the boss 46 years ago. If you haven't checked out her blog, I encourage you to take a look at the episode notes and dig into her deep archive of stories, photos, and video of her 46 years of Springsteen memories. A special thank you to Rensselaer's communications team for their help in tracking down some archival materials, including the story and photos published by RPI's student newspaper, The Polytechnic. Like what you heard in this episode? Please leave a review and 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. It's an incredibly helpful way to get our show out to new listeners. For our next episode, we'll be joined by world-renowned drummer and Capital Region resident Jason Bittner. as we look back at Metallica's first and only concert in Troy, New York on March 15th, 1989.
In the number of times that I've had an interaction with Lars Ulrich in my 30 years of being a professional drummer, he's been nothing but absolutely cordial and a beautiful person to me. And every time, always took time out for me, always just hang out, never a rock star, never a jerk. So I'll always I'm always pro Lars. So.
Until next time, love yourself, love one another, and may Pod save Troy. Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, is hosted, written, edited, and produced by me, John Salka. Our theme music is by Stephen J. Goldman at Four Legs Records. Like what you heard? Please give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City. This is incredibly helpful for getting others to find our show. Want to know more? Visit TroyStoryPod.com to see upcoming episodes, guests, and bonus content. Thanks for listening. The views or opinions expressed by guests are their own and not of the host or Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City.